We have become the very thing we swore to destroy.
We're Sweatlords now. Okay, well, not really. We talk a lot on this channel about how we're casual, we don't play competitively, we're like all about the fun picks and everything, which is true. And this is basically a clickbait video.
Yeah.
But we did go to some competitive-ish events.
Yeah.
For Kill Team. We played in a local 4-round league, 20 players, and then Victor played in a pretty big Kill Team tournament, like the biggest Canadian Kill Team tournament ever.
Yeah.
So we played in these 2 events. Well, I didn't play in the tournament, but I played in the league. Victor played in the league and the tournament. We have a lot of thoughts, and it was a lot of fun. So we're just going to do a little recap, like story time, basically. So we're going to start with the league here. So yeah, this was 4 rounds, 2-week period for each round, and there were 20 people signed up.
Yeah, it's basically the same format as any other 4-round tournament. Like the first round was random pairings, and then in subsequent rounds you get paired against someone that has the same record as you. So like it really is the same as a 4-round tournament, just spread out over 8 weeks.
Yeah. Now, like the reason I wanted to do this mostly is to get games in, and with my schedule, it's really hard to go like a full day and do like a 4-round tournament in a 11-hour day or whatever they are, because they're long days. So this way I was able to like find games that worked for me whenever the time came up. This started shortly after the edition.
Yeah.
So it started, I think, late October, early November.
Sounds right.
And basically we just picked teams that we thought were going to be fun. We weren't thinking about meta. The meta was really like undefined and nobody really knew at the time that this league started.
Yeah.
So it wasn't really anything based on that. And even for like our opponents, no one really knew anything.
Yeah.
So people just picked teams that they thought were cool. So I picked the Hearthkyn Salvagers. This is my favorite team. I love my paint job. I have a full roster built up, all magnetized and everything, every option except for the Warriors, because who cares? And Victor picked the Plague Marines.
Yeah, so I was originally going to play Corsairs. They've obviously been my favorite team for a few years now, but the league actually started. Day 1 was the day that Games Workshop released the rules for the Plague Marines. We already had the models because they sent them to us in advance, but no one had seen the rules yet. And so I got kind of approval from the TO and my first round opponent to do a last minute switch. And I'm glad I did. It was fun to play some games with them.
All right, so let's go through the whole thing.
Great.
So for my first game, I went into an Angels of Death player. I felt pretty favored. I think Hearthkyn do really well into Angels of Death because of grudge tokens and like all their piercing weapons. But this game was really unexpected for me because my opponent played super, super aggressively. Like right off the bat in Turning Point 1, running up into rooms, on engage, guarding. It was on Into the Dark. And like they controlled all the objectives. What was I going to do? I played super passively. Turning Point 1, I was like passing 3/4 of my team. I played super passively. Going into Turning Point 3, I was getting clobbered on crit op points. I think I was losing in tac op points too, and basically like very few kills had been made. Toward the end of the game, Turning Point 3 and Turning Point 4, I came out of my hiding spot. All the grudge tokens were stacked up. I got stacking auras on stacking auras, you know, rerolls here, accurate here, you know, upgrade to crits here. I took down a lot of Marines. I think he only had a couple guys left by the end of the game, maybe even 1 or 0. I don't remember exactly, but, you know, I think it shocked both of us, the comeback I made. And it was still a close game. I think I only won by like a couple points, like 1 or 2 points. But yeah, it was a real come from behind story, but I won my first game.
Nice. My first game was against the Aquilons on Gallowdark. And it was interesting because I hadn't played them since the battle report we did like to start the edition. And so I wasn't really sure how they work because I mean that like playing them so early in the edition the first time was like, I'm just trying to hang on to my own rules here. Like, I don't know what you're doing and I don't care, honestly. But my plan was like, okay, because it's Gallowdark, I'm going to be pretty safe to like move up a little bit. I'm just going to wait a couple turning points till you're all out of the sky and then just, you know, be Plague Marines and move up and be hard to kill. The plan worked perfectly. So if you're playing Aquilons, try that. It was a good map for me where there was kind of 3 main lanes. And so I was able to just put, you know, my gunner and leader, my psyker and a bolt gun warrior, and then my fighter and grenadier in another one, and just kind of like slowly move up one area at a time and overwhelm that space. The game was very, very tight for the first little while because I was moving up slowly. He was just coming out of the air. But then I got a pretty good interaction between like a guard that I had that went off, and then I was able to clear a couple guys out, and I kept closing the same door. So just like shutting him into the same area, which it's funny, you know, I think a lot of people like don't think of doors closing on Gallowdark.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I've in a few tournaments, it's like when I close doors, people are like, oh yeah. It's like, that's rude. Yeah, sorry. But yeah, so I think it was it started out as a pretty close game, and then after I was able to clear out some big threats of his, the tension kind of came out of it, and I was able to build up a bit of a score. I didn't table him, and I didn't score like a perfect game or anything, but I think it was either kind of 17 or 18 points for the victory. And I don't think I was able to like totally control the crit op. I don't think he scored a single one on it.
Okay. So my second game, unlike the first game, I was facing a matchup that really, really scared me. I was going into Hyrotech Circle. They have guns that are really good into 8 wound, 3-up save operatives.
Right.
You know, 4 or 5 damage is a great break point against me, and piercing 1 really counters my 3-up saves. So that's scary. And also, my opponent took the Psychomancer, which shuts down all my crits from my grudge tokens and my rerolls. It was a nightmare. But
Nightmare Shroud.
Yeah, stuff was actually looking pretty good. You know, we both played passively, Turning Point 1 and Turning Point 2. I got a really, really nasty Beamer shot where I killed his Despotech and weakened up his Apprentice and a Guardian. And then I went in at the end of the turning point and finished off those 2 wounded guys with my Jump Pack Warrior. I was looking really, really good. I think we both thought the game was won for me. But in Turning Point 3, I made a huge blunder. I really underestimated that Reanimator Plasma Sight. I should have played Proximate Firepower to make my shooting better. I should have put a Grudge token on the Plasma Sight because I went up and cracked it with an injured guy. I thought I could get the kill, but I was hitting on 5s, and I only dealt 1 normal to it. It was a 1 HP gang, and it rezzed like half his team. They just swarmed up on my side of the board. It was one of those missions where like you add points to the objectives, but then you score them at the end of the game. And he just like stole all my primary points. It was a mess. I lost points as his operatives came back to life.
Yeah, you hate that?
You've been Hyrotech on stream. I got Hyrotech in this game. Just like a couple seemingly small misplays on my part were just like magnified. And I just got destroyed points wise. So like epic loss in Turning Point 2.
Yeah.
Or not Turning Point 2, Game 2.
My Game 2 was against Angel of Death on Volcus. And the maps were randomly chosen. And I got the same map that I played my Plague Marines into Hyrotech on a couple days after we filmed that. I got stomped in that. I was going in with no confidence at all. I thought like, oh, here we go again. This team sucks. I'm never going to do anything. But my opponent was playing as slowly as I was. And so there wasn't any threats on the board at all until like basically the beginning of Turning Point 3. I made a great decision. I took Contain, and so I kind of scored a bunch of points with Contain without even really trying. My opponent took the Heavy Gunner instead of the Sniper, which I was surprised by. It surprised me. It did a ton of damage to one of my guys after a fight, and I thought like, oh shit, this thing's going to end this game. I'm going to die because I can't get to this Heavy Gunner up on a vantage point. But fortunately, my Plague Caster was able to make it injured, and then from that point on, he wasn't able to really do so much, and then the dice really carried me in that one. Like I got every disgustingly resilient roll I needed to. I was able to Curse of Rot one of his guys to death because he rolled like 4 3s or something. And it was like, yeah, miss, dead, get out of here.
Poor guy.
So yeah, it was gonna be a very, very tight game, and then dice do be dice, and sometimes they do actually help me. It was a really low scoring game. I won that game as well, and I either won it with like 12 or 13 points. It was a very low scoring. But a fun game for sure.
All right. My third game was against Aquilons, which you faced in this tournament with a different player.
I was going to ask you.
Yeah, different player.
There were a lot of Aquilons.
I think this guy was pretty green. I think he said it was only like he hadn't played them outside the league before. I think it was like he hadn't played much of 3rd edition so far. But, you know, they had some interesting mechanics. I forgot like the fact that when they drop, they're obscured.
Right.
So that kind of caught me off guard, even though I played them before.
Well, but it was your first time playing into them, right?
Yeah. And then this was also like my first time playing Salvagers into like a 10 body low HP
Right.
team. Overall, I think I was just able to like get kills where I needed them. And my jump pack warrior. So this was the crit op where it was like you can get a lot of points by sabotaging the one
Oh,
in
yeah.
your opponent's side. So I was able to like get in his home stronghold on Vulcus and take over his back point and just like get behind enemy lines and get some nice kills with my leader and my jump pack warrior. I ended up coming out ahead on this one.
Yeah.
Aquilons I don't think are that strong, but maybe I just haven't seen the Matrix yet.
The thing with the Aquilons is it feels like there's such a clear way to play against them. Like just wait out their drops, you know?
Yeah.
And
then, that's what I did.
Yeah, and
know?
it's like I haven't had too much of a problem if I play that way yet, you know?
Yeah, my opponent also, he was like, he said even, "Oh, you're the first one that's figured out how to like just play around this team." I was like, "Yeah, you know, you just wait."
So my round 2 was against Phobos on Vulcus as well, and I was it's funny. I was thinking like this is probably going to be a really interesting matchup. Like really slow versus really fast is like always kind of fun, no matter which side of it you're on. I think
you're like Cloud of Flies, but he cancels obscuring.
Well,
there's like a lot of.
That's the thing. In like the first 2 rounds, I used Smokes and Cloud of Flies like every turning point almost. Right, like I was obscured the whole time.
Did they bring a lot of Incursors?
Yes.
Yeah.
Incursor Sergeant. I'd never played against the Incursor Sergeant. Obviously, the Marksman and an Incursor war. Actually, 2 Incursor something else's. I don't remember exactly what the loadout was, but there was also a Reaver that was a little bit worrisome for me. But the movement was so much to deal with. Obviously, when you're like looking at threat ranges and stuff, it's like, right, it's an extra inch, it's an extra inch. What wasn't in my stupid brain was how much more climbing you can do with an extra inch. It really makes a big difference when his Reavers were just like scaling the walls and were all around me, you know? Like it was the vertical distance was massive. I was not feeling good. I was kind of pinned in my own zone. My playcaster and my leader were stuck inside one of the buildings because he had his marksman tracking target. But I thought like, okay, I've got to just like live and die by the like death guard thing here. I like launched my leader into the middle to bait out the track target shot. He shot me, but I played the ploy to like automatically pass all my disgustingly resilient. So I didn't take that much damage. I saved a bunch of them. And then I healed it all back. But then his marksman had to flip to engage to do that. And so as soon as his marksman was engaged, I had the leverage I needed to like just like throw my whole team forward in turning point 3.
Right.
So again, it was a pretty slow game. But then I think there was one guy left. I didn't kill the Helix Adept.
Oh yeah, the medic.
Yeah, I didn't kill the medic, but I killed all his friends. It was a pretty high scoring game. I think we both pretty much maxed most of our stuff out, but I think it was like, you know, maybe 18-16 or something like that. Pretty high scoring game, but I basically just stopped playing defense once his marksman flipped to engage. It's like, okay, I'm going.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a fun matchup. I really like Phobos in this edition. I gotta finish my
Me too.
paint on yeah, we're both painting up Phobos teams right now. Yeah, but that was round 3.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. So going into round 4, we were in an interesting spot. So the way tiebreakers worked in this tournament, it was strength of schedule.
Right.
So I had lost 1 and won 2. So if I won my 3rd game, or if I won my 4th game, I had a chance to podium.
Yeah.
Depending on how everyone else did, right? Victor had won his 3 games.
Yeah.
So he was going up against the other. There was only one other undefeated player, and it was the Necrons player that beat me in round 2. So if he won that game, he would win the whole thing.
Yeah.
So I'll go first.
Sure.
So I went into Warp Coven, and I was scared, right? And we were playing on Into the Dark, and I was like, man, this is going to be really tough.
Yeah.
But it's elites. So maybe like I'm good into elites, so maybe I can do something. The whole tournament, I had been trying to use this jump pack warrior alpha. And I always was like, oh, I'll just do it at the end of turning point 2 instead of 1. And I was being super passive. But this game, I went into it like, I'm not going to win anyway. I really, really want to see what happens if I just give it everything I got and no matter what, launch the jump pack warrior into his time sorcerer, the healer. Because I don't want to deal with him healing.
Right.
I don't want to see any healing this game. So I was like, no matter what, unless he makes it literally impossible, I'm going to do this. So, and I like all of my games, I tried to tell my opponents, like, this guy has a really large threat range. his cracks can hit on 3s if I play this ploy. Be really careful. Like, I tried to make sure they knew it was a thing. I didn't try and gotcha anyone. I told this guy, like, this is an option. And I think, like, he definitely acknowledged it. And he did play around it a bit because he didn't move up into his home objective. He, like, stayed back in his deployment zone, but he didn't close the door. Like, he opened the door at least.
Right.
And I was like, well, I did the reposition in the scouting step. So I was like 3 inches up. Then I have a ton of movement because I'm like 8 inches plus a 3-inch dash.
Right.
And then the 6-inch crack range with everything. I went with him last activation of Turning Point 1. I was just able to get into range, threw a crack at him, really good roll.
Nice.
And I was like, okay, I'm in it. So then Turning Point 2, I won initiative, and then I killed him.
Right.
I got his, like, in my opinion, the best operative on the team. The scary, like, all the healing, all of that. I killed him the first activation of Turning Point 2 and tied up a Zangor and a Rubric Marine just in his back line. And, like, one side of the board, I had it really under control. I had also moved up my lugger on that side of the board to, like, follow up behind him. And he has a free mission action.
Right.
And we were playing loot. So I just, like, went into his home objective and stole a point in Turning Point 2.
Right.
And so I was ahead on kill op and ahead on crit op. And it was a big back and forth. He got some really good kills. I got some really good kills. By the end of the game, he was down to 2 operatives, I think, surviving by the skin of his teeth, but really close to him. It came down to primary op, which, like, almost never actually happens. But it came down to primary op. I made the right call. He made the right call too. But I made the right call, which was the deciding factor. And I think I won by 1 point or 2 points. Otherwise, like, if I picked a different primary op, we could have tied. But yeah, I was really happy that at least once in this league, I was able to do the jump pack warrior thing. And I was so happy to, like, trade 1 dwarf for, like, the scariest Warp Coven Marine. And, like, there were good players in this tournament.
Yeah,
like, these people knew what they were doing. So it was a really hard fought battle. My opponent played really well. I also got some good dice.
Yeah.
Dice.
You need them, right? Like, that's part of the game.
So with that, I could maybe come in 3rd or 2nd, depending on how everyone else shook out. But we had to wait and see. So you played, like, you were one of the last people to play their game.
Yeah. So it was funny because so I was undefeated up until this point and playing against the only other guy that was undefeated. And so whoever won this game was going to win the tournament. And we both had, like, really busy. It was Christmas, and so it was, like, a super busy time. And so we messaged each other, and he said, like, we had to be January 8th was the deadline to finish our games. And he texted me and said, like, hey, you want to play on January 6th? It was like, yeah, let's do it January 6th. And so basically the whole thing happened, and then it was, like, all building up to this. And I went in thinking, like, this is terrible. I know I hate this matchup. But we played on one of the Can You Roll a Crit Volcus maps, and it like totally changed. I think these maps are great. Like, they'd be really hard to film. I was thinking the whole time playing, like, there's like bad camera angles here, but a really compelling map that had, like, some terrain and crazy spots. And what was cool is that, like, neither of us had played on it before, and so it's not like either of us were coming in with ideas of, like, what the other team was going to do on this setup, you know?
Yeah.
And so it was kind of like a pure game of Kill Team that way. And it was a great game. It was I went into it. The whole season had been playing, like, super cagey, gonna stay back, gonna, like, lean into how slow my team is. But when I played against you as higher tech, that's what screwed me, because I got stuck in my own end. I could never move forward. It felt like I never had any way to get, get towards your guns. And I was just getting, like, stuck, wasn't scoring any points. And so the whole time, the day of the game, I was listening to the Command Point 12 Days of Kill Team episode about death, whatever this team is called, Plague Marines. And their guest was talking about, like, I actually like to play this team really aggressive and take overrun. And I thought, like, man, I love that. So I took overrun.
Of course you love that.
And I was like, I'm going to play super aggressive. But then halfway through Turning Point 1, I got scared and stopped. And, like, stayed in my zone because, I was he had 3 death marks. And so that really worried me because he can deny obscuring. So I can't hide behind my flies. Once you get shot by a death mark, that operative has seek on him for the whole team for the rest of the game.
Well, not the whole team, the other death marks.
Oh yeah, well, his team was half death marks.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's like, I don't want like one of my 6 very important operatives to not be able to hide behind anything for the rest of the game. So I played very, very cagey, and I was kind of getting stuck in my zone, but it was really back and forth, and it was going pretty well. We were going into turning point 3, and it was a tie game, or it was within a point of being tied. I can't remember. I think it was tied, and then he brought a guy back with the goddamn reanimation and untied it with the kill op. I won initiative. I was able to charge and fight a death mark through a Volcus wall with my icon bearer and score a point for overrun. But then because of where I was and where I fought him, I was in a super safe spot. So I was like, that's almost a guaranteed second overrun point. And then he had Nightmare Shroud going again, which was like terrible for me. It is such an oppressive aura. But in that fight, like I rolled a crit and re-rolled something, and neither of us like remembered that it happened. And then like a couple activations later, he's like, "Oh man, I had Nightmare Shroud." It's like, oh, I didn't, neither of us. It's not like I was like trying to sneak it past him, but like we both just forgot.
It was too far gone at that point.
Like many dice had been rolled since then. Like it was too far gone. It was like just one of those things that happens in every kill team game. But I think it was because his leader was kind of hidden, so it was like kind of just out of sight, out of mind.
So you cheated, basically.
Yeah, I cheated. Yeah. Well, he cheated on my behalf.
Yeah.
But anyway,
what a nice guy.
Yeah. I was able to charge his Apprentech, who had already reanimated, with my leader through a building, kill the Apprentech, then throw a blight grenade that killed a Deathmark and the Reanimator Plasmacyte in one activation. And like at that point, the dominoes just kind of fell.
That was revenge against that Reanimator Plasmacyte.
But it was funny because I think like my opponent forgot that my leader was like in one of the Volcus buildings against the door. Because as soon as I brought him out, he's like, "Oh my god." He's like, I was thinking like, how am I winning? How am I doing so well? This is so easy. So I think it was like he just overlooked my leader being there. And then things obviously like losing those 3 operatives, even with higher attack, it's like you lose your ability to like out activate and fight back, right? So by that point I was able to kind of move up and just score at will. It was like a pretty lopsided score in the end. It shouldn't have been, but it was because like turning point 4, he was like, "Well, I'm just gonna charge this guy just because." It's like the game's over, I'm gonna charge this guy, and he was like, "Okay, well, Curse of Rot, sorry." I'm just gonna kill him. But it was a super fun game, but I ended up winning. And then
you're the only undefeated player, and you came in first out of 20 people in this league.
Yeah, it's kind of wild. I mean, I wasn't expecting to win the tournament. Like our local meta has some like serious kill team players in it. We've got some real kill team talent in the area, and I'm the best of all of them. No, that's not what I'm saying, obviously. Because I'm not even close, but I think I got like a good draw, got some good matchups, and then went into the final game with a chance to win it. And it was, I think, between Higher Tech and Plague Marines is going to be a coin toss, right? Like if both teams play well, then there's going to be dice and or some like forgetting a reroll or something like that, right? Like I think it was like a pretty strong tournament, and I'm really happy with it. If I had known how good Plague Marines are, I probably wouldn't have taken them.
Who knew?
Yeah, who knew? I certainly didn't, but it was fun to play a top of the meta team because that's not usually my bag, but it is fun to just walk around and shoot stuff.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
Well, how did I do?
How did you do?
Well, after everything came in, we were looking at the results, strength of schedule. So we waited for all the games to be done,
right? And
we saw what happened. And up on BCP, I ended up coming in 4th, which is good. I'm happy with 4 out of 20. That's like pretty sick. You know?
Definitely.
But then we get a message on the Discord.
Yeah.
And we see the person who came in 2nd, I guess 2 of their 4 games, they only won by forfeit because their opponents, like, they couldn't find a time that worked. Right. So they just gave him the win.
They had a couple free 21-nothings. I think.
And they decided, this doesn't feel good to come in 2nd with 2 games I didn't even play. So they decided to basically forfeit the scoring at the end.
Right.
So that bumped me up to 3rd. So I ended up coming in a fake 3rd place, but so
double mountainside podium.
Yeah. So it was fun. It was a really good league. I think I'm gonna play the next season for sure. Gonna switch it up. Short Kings are great, but I want to try a different team out. Maybe Orcs, maybe Blooded. We'll see. what I'm feeling.
Yeah.
I haven't locked it in yet.
Yeah, I haven't signed up yet. I'm definitely going to, but it was fun, and I want to do it again. It's a fun format. It's not like a league is not my favorite format, honestly.
I love a league because I can play the games. Actually, I don't have to spend the whole day.
See, for me, the reason I like a one-day tournament is because like I very rarely play the same kill team 2 games in a row. And if I'm at a one-day tournament, it's like kind of just feels like one game in my head. But like playing Plague Marines and then like 2 weeks later, it's like, oh, I got to play another game with Plague Marines. It's like I'm sick of these guys by now.
I loved it because I was like learning how to actually do all the sick combos.
Yeah. So yeah, recently the largest kill team tournament in Canada happened, and it was pretty close to us. So I signed up. And a lot of the heavy hitters from our local meta came out, which was cool. Shane from Command Point made the drive, and it was cool to hang out a bit and chat football and data slate with him.
You know, George, the winner of New York Open this year, was there. He played.
Yeah, he's a staple in our local scene. Wins a lot of stuff.
I still never met him. I've talked to him on Discord. I don't know if he knew it was me though.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
That's funny. But yeah, it was a really, really fun day. I decided to take Breachers, and I got questioned about this all day by everyone. But I really wanted to try it. Like my philosophy is that, you know, any team has a chance in any matchup.
And to preface this for people who might not know, they're like the worst team in the game by a lot.
Yeah, they're very, very, very bad. But I really wanted to take them. I really wanted to play a few games with them, get some different matchups. And like my goal going into it was like, look, if I lose the first 3 games, then I'll be against someone else that lost their first 3 games. And then, you know, maybe I can pick up a win in the last one. But I ended up winning my first 2 games and kind of ended up in the heavy hitter side of the bracket. But, you know, after I won my first game, someone was saying like, oh man, I can't believe you won with Breachers. And, you know, what I said to them was like, there's not a lot of favorable matchups for the Breachers right now, but Rattlings on Gallow Dark is certainly one of them. It was a really, really fun game.
Did your opponent have Ogrins?
He did. He had 3 of them.
Okay.
And it was a fun game, and I eventually just like gave him a third of the board because there was an Ogrin I wasn't going to be able to deal with. And so I was like, whatever, close the door, stay in there. The other Ogrin I shot with my Melta and rolled 3 6s. And so like, you know, sorry.
You one-shot an Ogrin?
I did, yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So that was a fun matchup. My second matchup was in the Nemesis Claw, and it was a pretty like tricky game. It was a weird layout. I'm not sure where they got the map from, but it was just like a lot of tricky stuff, a lot of like doors opening, doors closing, everyone's on guard.
I think it was like can you roll crit maps and squad games maps.
There was like some really long sight lines that kind of sucked because of In Midnight Clad, but I was able to pull through a win by picking Contain and just, you know, making him come to me and then melting him. And then my third game was against Plague Marines, and it felt like the karma I had coming by bringing Plague Marines to this last league because I got absolutely destroyed. One really funny moment, I was like, my Endurant was in like kind of the cork in the bottle in one of the sections of the map, and he just couldn't get through him because he was like blocking off charges, saving on 2s. He was staying alive forever. And then, but I was doing like no damage to him. I couldn't do anything.
How could you?
You're right. That's the thing. But then he had a group of guys, and I was like, oh, this is perfect. This is the time. I threw my Geist Skull in, breach and clear, blew up the Geist Skull, and it almost like it brought one of them from 3 HP down to 1 HP. And I was like, I was like, damn it. And he was like, 1 HP gang? And I was like, yeah, all right, 1 HP gang. And so, yeah, I got stomped in that one. And then my last matchup was against a person who is becoming my nemesis in the local scene. So a year ago, I played in a tournament, just thought like, oh, whatever, what the hell, I'll go play in a tournament. And I brought Inquisitors back when they were bad. And I played against this guy on Beta Decima. He was using Pathfinders, and it was before the goo blocked visibility, and it just blocked obscuring. And so I just wasn't obscured the whole time, and like basically was tabled by the end of Turning Point 2. This time I brought Breachers, and he was on Hyrotech, and it was like, oh, this guy, man. But no, he's like,
you beat him, right?
Yeah, killed him. No, absolutely not. Like, halfway through Turning Point 3, I was like, "Oh, I need to score a point. I can't get shut out."
Yeah.
And I think it was like 21-3, but he was a great opponent and a good guy. But like, it's just funny. The 2 games we've played have been like absolute stomps. And I was saying, like, one of these days I'm going to bring a good team to a tournament and we'll have a real game. But yeah, so it was a really fun experience. I went 2-2 with Breachers. Shane won with Felgor, which was awesome. I was saying that like we must be the 51st state now because he drove over and kicked all our asses with Felgor. But it was a fun tournament. And, I think I want to do more of these things. I want to do some more tournaments. I don't think I'm ever going to like really worry too much about like my placement in them, but it's fun trying hard for 4 games in a day for me. Like, it's not the way that I want to play Kill Team all the time, but it does scratch a certain itch every now and again to like really get in the weeds in a Kill Team game in a way that I don't usually. And so I'm going to keep my eye out. I'm going to go to more. I might go to one of the big ones. I kind of have that itch.
God.
I kind of want to go to like Nova and play this time or something like that.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Let me know. Let me know in the comments if there's like a cool tournament I should check out because I've kind of got the appetite for it right now.
There's a lot. We already know.
Yeah, there is. But we're going to do more of them. You're going to do more, right?
I'm definitely going to play in the leagues. Maybe I'll get out to a tournament one of these days.
Surely, if with enough advance notice, we can get you to one of them.
We'll see. Anyway, hopefully you liked this video. This is something new for us, just kind of like
talking about our experiences.
Yeah, chatting. But if you like it, let us know. Maybe we'll do another one after the next league finishes or after the next tournament you take Breachers to.
I don't know that I'm going to take Breachers. I was also like kind of hoping that there was going to be a data slate drop like that morning, but it hadn't happened. It still hasn't happened.
All right. Well, maybe it's happened by the time this video's gone up. We said that in the last video.
Yeah, we've been saying that for a few videos.
Guy can dream anyway.
Yeah. See you in the next one.
Yeah, thanks for watching. Oh, thanks to our 1 HP gangsters and mountain goats.
That was a pretty subdued goats because the baby was already crying.
Yeah. All right.
See ya,
folks.